So last time we had discussed about linear momentum and its effect and its dependency or the relation with the force, which is also known as the second law of motion. Now today we will discuss about the law of conservation of momentum as well as the third law of motion, that is action reaction law. So first let's talk about law of conservation of linear momentum. Conservation of linear momentum. So let's discuss about these. Conservation of linear momentum. So if I go for the definition, so its standard definition is the total momentum, of a system, the total momentum of a system is, or the total momentum of a system remains conserved during any change in the system. During any change in the system. This is the basic definition for law of conservation of momentum. But what does it mean? Another definition is also there, that the total momentum of a system remains conserved. The simplest definition, it remains conserved. So what does it mean? First we need to understand that what is a system. So all those components which are the part of your experiment are simply called the constituents or the parts, components of a system. For an example, you are studying the collision of two balls. You are just studying the collision of two balls. Let's say the ball of mass m1 and the another ball which is moving in the same direction of mass m2. They are moving in the same direction with different velocities. Let's say u1 and u2 vector. So if I simply assume that u1 is greater than u2, and so ultimately they will collide with each other. M1 and M2, they will collide with each other, and after that there will be a change in their velocities. Now after the collision, the velocity of the first ball, it becomes v1 vector, and the velocity of the second ball, it becomes v2 vector. So definitely there is a change in the momentum. There is a change in the momenta even. If I talk about the momentum of first ball and the momentum of second ball, so plural, in the plural sense, I will call the change in momenta. Yes, there will be a change in momenta. The change in momentum of first ball, you can see that there is a change in velocity. And we know it very well. Either the mass or the velocity if changes, definitely the linear momentum will also get changed. The general formula of linear momentum, we know it very well, that P equals to mass into velocity. So if there is a change in mass, definitely the momentum will get changed. If there is a change in velocity, there will be a change in momentum also. So since there is a change in velocity, so you can see that there will be a change in momentum. So there is a change in momentum of first ball. There is a change in momentum of second ball also. So definitely there will be a change in momentum. But according to the concept, these two balls are the components of our experiment. So the combination of these two balls is combinedly called system. So in our system, there are only two balls during the experiment. So keep this thing in your mind, that a system is a package, or a system is a, we can say, combination of different components which are actually the part of your experiment. That combination is called a system. And all those things which are not taking any participation in the process of your experiment, that will be considered as surrounding. We will discuss about this concept in we can say in a very deep way in thermodynamics chapter. So right now, let's say in this system there are only two components, M1 and M2. We are studying their collisions. Now, according to the law of conservation of momentum, if I go for according to the definition, means the total momentum of the system remains unchanged during any change in the system. it will remain conserved, which means if I say my system is having two components M1 and M2, and before collision its momentum is, let's say, P1 and P2, and after collision its moment, definitely its their momentum will get changed. So its momentum is supposed to be P1 dash and second ball's momentum is supposed to be P2 dash. So according to the law of conservation of momentum, the total momentum will remain conserved. It means total momentum before collision means P1 plus P2 equals to total momentum after collision means P1 dash plus P2 dash. That is the basic interpretation of law of conservation of linear momentum. Total momentum before event and total momentum after event, they will be same. There will be no change in net momentum. Individual momenta is getting changed. Individual momentum is getting changed here, but total momentum will remain same during any change in the process. To justify the law of conservation of momentum, I'll take an example of collision between two balls to understand the actual meaning of conservation of linear momentum. So let's take an example of collision between two balls. Let's say the first ball of mass m1, it is moving in this direction with velocity u1 vector. Another ball of mass m2 moving with velocity u2 vector. So if I assume that u2 is greater than u1 is greater than u2, so definitely the first ball will get collided with the second ball because u1 is greater than u2. You can see it clearly. You can see it clearly that u1 is greater than u2 here. So we can say that these balls will collide with each other. M1 and M2, they will collide with each other. They will exert forces over each other. Let's say the force on second due to first F21 vector. This is the force on second due to first. Please pay attention. F21 is force on second ball due to first ball. I should write it here for you. Force on second ball due to first ball. And in the same way, the second ball will also exert some force on the first ball. So force on first ball due to second, let's call it F12 vector, and we need to put a negative sign here because it is just opposite to the first force. In vector form, we need to simply exert an opposite force. So force on first ball due to second ball. So they are exerting forces over each other, due to which there will be a change in their velocity. You know it very well. If force is being exerted on a body, there will be an acceleration, and if there is an acceleration, there will be a change in velocity definitely. So keep this thing in your mind that now the velocity of the first ball is changed, and it has become v1 vector, and the velocity of second ball of mass m2, it has changed to be v2 vector. So there is a change in velocity, you can see clearly. So definitely there will be a change in linear momentum. So I would like to find out the change in linear momentum. So keep this thing in mind. Since the first ball was moving faster as compared to the second, so it will lose its some kinetic energy, and the second ball will gain some kinetic energy. So definitely there will be a decrement in velocity, and there will be an increment in the velocity. So its momentum is getting decreased. So you will write the loss in momentum. Loss in momentum. You know why? Because its velocity is getting decreased due to the collision. Because you can see clearly, the first ball is experiencing a retardative force. Retardative force means a force which is causing the retardation. A force in the opposite direction of its motion. So its velocity will decrease, and if its velocity is decreasing, its momentum will also get decreased. So, and for the first ball, you can see it clearly. For the first ball, its momentum is actually increasing. For the first ball, its momentum is increasing. Why? Because it is getting a force in the direction same as the direction of its motion. In the same direction, it is getting a force, and this force will cause a positive acceleration. A positive acceleration means increment in the velocity. So definitely gain in momentum. Gain in momentum. So this is the gain in momentum and this is the loss in momentum. And according to, if I go say that there is no other component in this collision sequence, there is no other component, so definitely the loss in momentum will be same as the gain in momentum of second ball. Loss in momentum of first ball will be same as the gain in momentum of second ball. So this is the core concept of this law of conservation of linear momentum. So the loss in momentum of first ball will be same as the gain in momentum of second ball. So our target right now to find out the loss in momentum of first ball and the gain in momentum of second ball, and it is very easy to calculate. You'll see the loss is always it can be found always in the same way, that initial data minus final, not final minus initial. We are not going to calculate gain, we are going to calculate loss. Loss means initial value is higher than the final value. So if you want to find out the loss, initial data minus final data. So loss in momentum of first ball, initial momentum of first ball minus final momentum of first ball. So initial momentum of first ball is m1 u1. You can see initial momentum of first ball is, we can say, m1 u1. This is the initial momentum of first ball minus final momentum of first ball m1 v1. m1 v1. So this is the loss in momentum of first ball equals to gain in momentum of second ball. Gain means the final momentum is greater than the initial for the second ball. So final is m2 v2 minus initial is m2 u2. So m2 v2 minus m2 u2. This is the conclusion. Now let's take u information on the one side and v information on the other side. Means let's shift this m2 u2 here and shift this m1 v1 there. So you will get m1 u1 and it will be positive there. m2 u2 equals to m1 v1 positive there plus m2 v2. And what does it represent? m1 u1 plus m2 u2. m1 u1 is initial momentum of first ball. m2 u2 is initial momentum of second ball. So I can write it initial momentum of first ball p1, initial momentum of second ball p2 equals to final momentum of first ball and the final momentum of second ball. Final momentum of first ball p1 dash and final momentum of second ball p2 dash. So what does it represent? Total momentum before collision and the total momentum after collision, they will be same. Total momentum before collision, you will write it completely, equals to total momentum after collision, and which was the statement of law of conservation of linear momentum. So this is the justification of law of conservation of linear momentum. Means the total momentum of a system will not get changed during any change in the system. Only individual momentum will get changed. We will utilize this law of conservation of linear momentum for the justification of action reaction law. Means the for the every action there will be an equal and opposite reaction. Means if the first ball is exerting a force on the second ball and we are treating it as an action, so the second ball definitely will exert a reaction on the first ball. Means equal and opposite force, which means we need to prove that the F21 is just equal and opposite to F12. So you can say that we need to prove that F12 equals to minus F21 or F21 equals to minus F12. We need to prove it. So we can prove it with the help of law of conservation of linear momentum. How? Let me tell you. In the same scenario, in the same situation, in the same example, we can prove it with the help of second law of motion and law of conservation of momentum. So you know very well the we can say action reaction law. For every action there will be an equal and opposite reaction. There is a equal and opposite reaction, but keep this thing in your mind, which is very important. For the action on a body, the reaction will be on the different body. Action and reaction, they won't be applicable for the same body. You can see action is being applied by the first body on the second body, while the reaction is being applied by the second body on the first body. So you can't get action or reaction on the same body. Keep this thing in your mind. It is a concept of two different bodies, not for the same body. For every action, there will be a equal and opposite reaction on the another body. Keep this thing in your mind. So according to law of conservation of momentum, we can write it here. According to law of conservation of momentum, you will write it completely. Law of conservation of momentum, total momentum before collision equals to total momentum after collision. We have proved it already. So what we are going to do, we will decode it again. So total momentum before collision is momentum of first ball plus momentum of second ball before collision. So m1 u1 plus m2 u2 equals to m1 v1 total momentum after collision plus m2 v2. This is the total momentum after collision. m1 u1 plus m2 u2 equals to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. Now what will you do? Take information of first ball on the one side and the information of second ball on the other side. So you can write m1 u1 minus m1 v1. You have shifted this m1 v1 there, equals to m2 v2 minus m2 u2. So take m2 common from this side and take minus m1 common from that side, because we need to make it v1 minus u1. So take minus m1 common. So minus m1 common, it will become v1 minus u1. v1 minus u1 equals to m2 common, v2 minus u2. You can write it like this. And let's say the collision time is t second. In this collision, the time is t second. But so divide by t on the both sides. Dividing by t on the both sides. Both sides. So what will you get? So if I divide it by t on the both sides, you will get minus m1 v1 minus u1 upon t equals to m2 v2 minus u2 upon t. You can see it clearly. So v minus u upon t is acceleration. We know it very well. V minus t is acceleration. So it will be acceleration in the first ball, because it is v1 minus u1 upon t. So you can write it minus m1 a1 equals to m2 a2, acceleration in the second ball, and mass into acceleration is force. We know it very well. Mass into acceleration is force. So that will be the force on the first ball. So force on the first ball is being written as F12, force on the first ball due to second ball. So we can write it minus F12, force on the first ball due to second ball, equals to force on the, let me adjust it for you. So force on the second ball due to first ball, that is F21. Force on the second ball due to first ball, and we have proved it that they are equal and opposite. So which is actually called action reaction law. Action reaction law. So this is the deduction of third law of motion with the help of second law of motion, because this is the second law of motion. The change in linear momentum upon time is force. So with the help of second law of motion, you can deduce the third law of motion, as well as with the help of second law of motion, you can prove the first law also. That's why second law is also known as master law or real law of motion. Why? Because with the help of second law, you can prove the third law as well as the first law. How? Let me tell you. How can we prove the first law? Third law, we have proved it already, the action reaction law. Now, how can we prove the first law with the help of second law of motion? So let's back to the point. We know very well from the second law of motion, the force applied on a body is directly proportional to the change in linear momentum with respect to time. You can write it like this, or if you want to write it in calculus form, So you can write K constant dp upon dt means change in momentum with respect to time for a small change. Differentiation or calculus you will use, and for a we can say the finite change, or if you know the change P2 minus P1, so you can use this formula. So I will focus right now on this formula simply. Force is directly proportional to change in momentum with respect to time, or K constant is 1 here usually. So F equals to, you can write delta P upon T. And now if I say that momentum is mass into velocity, and if I say that change in momentum, so that will be the mass into change in velocity. In this way you can utilize. So change in momentum, if mass is constant, we are assuming mass as a constant, we are not going to change the mass. So change in momentum would be mass into change in velocity. You know it very well. Change in momentum is mass into change in velocity. So what does it mean? If you want to prove it, that if an external force acting on a body is zero, according to first law of motion, if external force acting on a body is zero, the body will remain in its state of rest or state of motion. You know it very well, the inertia. If there is no external force acting on a body, the body will not change its state. We need to apply an external force to change the state of a body. We know it very well. So this force will be treated as an external force. So if F is 0, no external force is being applied. No external force is applied, which means delta P upon T will also become 0 from this expression, from the second law of motion. So you can write delta P upon T is 0, or you can write delta P is 0, and we know it very well, for constant mass delta P is m into delta V is 0. Mass can't be 0, you know it very well. For a body, mass can't be 0, so definitely delta V is 0. So delta V is 0, which means change in velocity is 0, not velocity. Change in velocity is 0, change in velocity is final minus initial. So V minus U equals to 0, or you can say V equals to U, which is actually satisfying the condition of inertia. There will be no change in velocity, means there will be no change in the state of the body. If the body initially at rest, finally it will remain at rest. If the body is moving in a particular direction with a particular velocity, there will be no change in the direction as well as magnitude of the velocity. It will remain same, because this statement is showing that the initial and final velocities are same when we are not applying any external force. So this is the justification of law of inertia. If no external force is applied on the body, it will not change its state of rest or state of motion. So this is the justification of law of inertia. This is the justification of law of inertia. So keep this thing in your mind. That's why the second law of motion is also known as real law or master law. So whenever in the exam you are facing the question that justifies this statement that the second law of motion is the real law or master law, you need to derive first law of motion as well as the third law of motion with the help of second law of motion. Keep this thing in your mind. Please mark my words. If the question appears in this sense that the justify this statement that the second law of motion is the real law or master law, or why do we call the second law of motion as the real law or master law, you need to prove the first law of motion with the help of second law as well as the third law of motion with the help of second law of motion.